Good afternoon, Tara. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
Awesome. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I thought the meeting started at 2, so that's why I am uber early today.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yep, I that's on me. That's on me.
No worries. You can keep busy until 2:30. We should be all right.
I can do that.
Thank you, man. Good afternoon, Mr. Trevino. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. We have a Zoom user. Can you please share your name, please, so we can put you down for attendance? Not sure who's logged in.
I'm just logging in. This is for the next meeting. Rene Estrada.
How you
But
doing, Mr. Estrada?
I'm good.
Good to hear from you, sir.
I might catch a tail end of this meeting. It's okay.
No worries, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I'll
Appreciate
be identifying in a bit. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Allen. Can you hear me okay, sir?
Good afternoon. I sure can. How are you doing today?
Doing well, sir. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Caso. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, Mr. Salazar.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Miss Salinas. Can you hear me okay, ma'am?
Ah, yes, I can.
I hear you. Perfect. I'm
Can you see
enjoying
me?
the background. You're making me jealous.
I have to dream.
I know, right? Mr. Lucio, can you hear me okay, sir?
Good afternoon, Jaime. Good afternoon, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jaime. How's it going?
Going well, Chairman. How are you?
Doing good, sir. Doing
Qué
good.
bueno. Qué bueno.
Let's see. We got a minute.
Está bueno. Sounds good. Let's see if she calls. Okay. Do we have volume?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Garcia, we can hear you fine, sir.
No. Turn.
Right there. That's fine. Okay, it's 2:30, and I will call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the meeting today. We hope that we can knock this out, move on. I know everybody's got busy days at this time of the year. So if you would do us the honor of doing the roll call for us, Jaime.
Yes, sir, Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman Garza,
Present.
Commissioner David Fuentes, Mr. Daniel Lucio.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hudson Deoy. Mr. Joey Trevino.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rene Estrada.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joe Khalifa did send an email, sir, that he wasn't going to be able to attend today.
Thank you.
Mr. Jose Caso.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ernesto Garcia.
Present.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Troy Allen.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Miss Olga Ramos. Commissioner Olga Ramos. Mr. Ben Escobar. Miss Annabelle Salinas.
Here.
Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Michael Kent. Non-voting members, Willie Cupid. Mr. Adrian Perez. Mr. David Ramirez. Welcome, Mr. Kent. Mr.
Hello.
David Ramirez, we can hear you fine, sir. Thank you. Mr. Manny Cruz. Mr. Nick Collins was not going to join us today. I believe we have Cynthia Nolasco on the line. Miss Cynthia,
Hi, yes, I'm here. Hello,
thank
everyone.
you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Ms. Michelle Garcia, Nick Gallegos, Ramon Macias, Kara Smith. I know I saw Kara earlier. And Miss Shonda Mace.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Chairman, we have quorum.
Okay, we will proceed then. Thank you so much, Jaime, for establishing that for us.
Yes, sir.
Did we get any public comments sent to you, Jaime?
Let me do a quick check. None received at this time, Chairman.
Okay, then we go to item number 4, which is discussion and action as appropriate to consider approval of minutes from the previous meeting of October the 29th. And everyone got those minutes emailed to them. I will entertain a motion to approve as presented or entertain a motion to make any additions or deletions.
I'll make a
have-
motion.
I'm sorry, I have on items number 9 and 10,
Yes, ma'am.
I think it was duplicated.
The item itself. Okay, yes, ma'am. We will make proper revisions to that. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's just wait a second here because on item 9, we have a motion by Daniel Lucio and a second by Annabelle Salinas. And on item 10, we have a motion by Michael Kent and second by Daniel Lucio. Let me look at the agenda.
I believe it
Brief.
was the actual item, Chairman.
Well,
Let me see. I have it.
item number 9 was as discussion and possible action or consideration and possible action to approve existing conditions, flood quilt for inclusion in technical memorandum. Okay,
That's
that was
correct.
number 9. Okay, number 10 was consideration and possible action on revising, recommending, and/or adopting the flood management from the 2023 regional flood plan. So there were 2 different items. The wording on the agenda probably needs to be changed, not deleted, okay?
That's correct. Yes, sir, Chairman. We'll do.
Okay, so
We'll make that revision and send it out to everyone, sir.
okay, good. We can go ahead if you'd like with that. Can you do that as we're on the meeting and make sure that we get it so that we can go back and vote and approve
Yes,
the
sir.
minutes afterwards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you could please do that, Jaime, or one of your staff people, and that way we can proceed with the meeting and we'll just hold on voting on this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks so much for the catch, because I did not catch it myself.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas.
Yes. Item number 5 is discussion and update from the Texas Water Development Board. I believe Cynthia's gonna cover this.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, so Nick is out, so I'll be covering for him today. I don't have too many updates, just a few. So to begin, in early November, we informed the sponsors and chairs of their completion of their plan amendment, and many deliverables were deemed acceptable under our October 2024 guidance. Next up, the technical memo is due to the board on January 7th, 2026. Just really quickly, a clarification email was sent out by us regarding some Exhibit C tables. So that's outlined in our email. With that clarification email that was sent out to all the chairs, sponsors, technical consultants back in November 11th. So if anybody has questions on that, feel free to let me know. Moving on, in early November, a survey on Task 5B metrics was sent out to chair sponsors and technical consultants. So this survey was needed before a chair-led conference call to discuss regional approaches to Task 5B. And that was actually held last week, December 3rd at 1 p.m. A recording of that call will be available up on our webpage very soon if anybody missed it. And then let's see, lastly, on October 2nd, the Texas Water Development Board approved an item related to Task 5B, and this was just to negotiate and execute contracts for consultants to perform FMEs. And I believe those are all of my updates, and I'll pass it back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for Cynthia?
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Pepe.
Are y'all forecasting to publish the intended use plan for the next round of FIF this year or sometime soon?
I don't have the immediate answer to that. Last I recall, the goal was to do it by the end of this year. However, I would have to double check.
Okay, and as far as dispersing funds for the previous FIF cycle, I guess not the first one, but the second one, the one that I guess the latest one, have all the funds been depleted, or are there still funds available to fund projects?
That's a great question. Off the top of my head, again, I'm not entirely sure. I would have to go check in with my team to see where we're at on that.
All right, if you could please get us that information for the next meeting, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if we get it sooner, just share it with all of us. Email us. Okay.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from anyone else? Okay. Then I thank you so much, Cynthia, for making us aware of that, and we look forward to hearing from you on the questions that Mr. Caso posed to you, hopefully in the near future, okay? Agenda item number 6 is approval and certification of administrative expenses incurred by the planning group sponsor for the development of the regional flood plan. Jaime?
No items to report at this time, Chairman.
Okay, so no action on number 7.
Chairman,
Number 8 is
Chairman, I would like to welcome Commissioner Olga Ramos, our newest voting member from Maverick County. She's on the line.
I saw her on there. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Ramos, Commissioner Ramos. Look forward to meeting you in person and also to being active with our group, here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Item number 8 is discussion and possible action to approve Regional Flood Planning Group flood mitigation and floodplain management goals as proposed by the working committee. Jaime?
Chairman, I think we skipped item 7, which
We
we had a
skipped item-
technical
yeah.
update.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Well, do we need to do item 7 before we do 8?
Well, it's up to you all. Part of our update was to review the recommendation made
Right.
by the technical committee.
Right.
I
Okay,
did
so-
send that
Well,
out.
let's go ahead and go to number 7, or discussion and update from technical consultant.
All right, let me,
I'm sorry, Ann, I did not mean to skip you,
no worries at all, sir.
This is my office's 5th Zoom today, so it's been like a
Ooh.
crazy day.
That's a full day.
No, that's only half.
I just sent a request to share my screen, Jaime, see if you can
Yes, ma'am. Let me get on that.
How about those Longhorns, guys?
Yeah, Merito.
That's a touchy subject.
Oh, it's a great subject. I spent last week at A&M, okay, so it's a good subject.
All right, we'll accept that.
I'm not touching that one. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. So Elmer and I are going to give an update on behalf of the technical consultant to address items 7, 8, and 9 of the agenda. It's not a too long of a presentation, but we are going to review all the goal recommendations. And then Elmer's going to come in and give a brief overview on the draft technical memorandum that was drafted and posted to the Region 15 website before Thanksgiving. And we do need to get approval on the goal statements and the technical memorandum prior to the submittal deadline on January 7th. So those are items 8 and 9 in the agenda. So I feel like, okay. So to start with the update on the floodplain management goals based on the work that the committee did, that the committee was established after our RFPG meeting back in July. And it was, the intent was to review the individual goal statements, the preliminary baseline measurements that were researched by the technical consultant, and to discuss short and long-term targets for the new planning cycle. So the committee consisted of Augusto Sanchez from Cameron County, Roberto Hernandez from the city of Harlingen, Carla Marin Torres from Cameron County Drainage District 3, and Yvette Barrera from Hidalgo County Drainage District 1. We met virtually on 4 separate occasions, and I want to sincerely thank those individuals for their time and valuable input in reviewing all of our goals and making the recommendations that was sent out to the Regional Flood Planning Group. So in general, it was discussed that there were a lot of goals that were set during the first planning cycle, many of which required a significant amount of research and analysis to obtain measurements on progress. And it was further discussed that there was limited resources, and the RFPG may want to consider a plan to implement the goals and somehow incentivize community stakeholders to not only take steps to meet the goals, but to also help provide information that will help the Regional Flood Planning Group track progress. You may recall from previous meetings that we started with 21 goal statements, each that had a short and a long-term target based on the work done during the first planning cycle, and they were categorized into one of 6 groupings based on the overall theme of the goal. And so I'm going to present all of these and as they were broken down based on each of those 6 categories. So the first category is related to flood infrastructure projects. And our first goal stated to increase the number of nature-based flood risk reduction projects. And is proposed that this be measured based on the percent of nature-based projects, flood risk reduction projects relative to projects that are not nature-based. And so trying to quantify that baseline was really challenging, in that defining a project as nature-based could be somewhat subjective, and there was no single place where all of this information is collected for projects that are being built across the flood planning region. So to simplify things, the committee is recommending that the goal be reworded to state increase the number of nature-based flood risk reduction projects that are included in the regional flood plan. So this is information that we're already tracking. One of our data deliverables is to estimate the percentage of each FMP that's nature-based, and so we can easily track that measurement using those data table deliverables. We further agreed that a project should only be considered nature-based if at least 50% of the project cost could be considered nature-based. So based on that metric, it was determined that our baseline condition was approximately 3%, based on having 3 out of 106 total FMPs where at least 50% of the cost was designated as nature-based. And then we set targets that were a little bit below the previous short and long-term targets, since y'all didn't have a baseline to work from when those initial targets were set. So our new proposed short-term target for 2038 is 10 to 20%, and our long-term target is to exceed 25%. The next goal was to reduce the number of newly constructed vulnerable critical facilities within the existing 1% annual chance floodplain event. The group discussed that this is already a requirement for NFIP participants, and since the majority of our planning area also participates in the NFIP, this goal is recommended for removal from our regional flood plan. The next goal stated to increase community access routes to critical facilities and evacuation routes during and after a flooding event. This was really difficult to quantify and would require a great deal of additional data and data analysis. And since the benefits of the goal are also difficult to quantify because it doesn't involve removal of actual structures from the floodplain, the group's recommending that the goal be removed from the flood plan. The last goal in this section stated to increase the number of entities that provide regional detention that could be used for water reuse applications or as a part of their floodplain management program. This goal was measured based on the percent of entities that provided regional detention as part of their floodplain management program, and the baseline was estimated based on reviewing data that was either submitted to us or that we were able to find through online research. The current baseline is estimated at 22%, and based on that existing status, the committee recommended that the short and long-term targets match the targets that were set during the first planning cycle, with a short-term target of 30% and a long-term goal in excess of 60%. So moving on to the second category, which is flood warning and readiness systems. The first goal in this category was to develop a regionally coordinated warning and emergency response program, which shall at a minimum involve coordination with the county to detect the flood threat and provide timely warning of impending flood danger to the most populated areas of the region. For this goal, the group recommended revising the way the goal is measured to be based on the number of Region 15 communities covered by a system, as opposed to the percent of the population. It will be easier to track. And currently, we were not able to confirm any entities that have regionally coordinated programs, although a lot of individual stakeholders have programs within their own jurisdiction. So our current baseline we set to 0 right now based on the info we have, but based on the number of FMSs that have been submitted throughout the region, this is something that a lot of entities are working towards. And so we felt that the goals that the committee set for short term was 60% and long term is over 70%. I think there's a lot of entities that are close, but it's maybe a matter of just expanding and how they're coordinating amongst neighboring entities in the region. The next goal is to increase the number of flood gauges in the region, and it was to be measured based on the percent of watershed and streams with active gauges. This isn't something that's actively tracked across the region. It would take quite a bit of additional analysis to develop the statistics in terms of defining watersheds and streams that we need to monitor. The group also felt that maybe this was redundant if the intent of the goal was to support establishing flood warning systems. And further, there was no FMXs in the 2023 plan that was linked directly to this goal. And so while the gauge data is really important, we felt that maybe it wasn't fitting as its own goal for the region. And so it was recommended that this be removed. The third goal was to increase the number of entities that use reverse 911 TV, radio, social media, and billboards to communicate flood warnings, evacuation routes, and shelter locations. Based on survey responses and internet research, it's estimated that 18% of Region 15 entities currently use these tools, and that the long and short-term targets should remain the same as those set in previous cycles. The last goal in this category stated to increase the number of entities that integrate National Weather Service and USGS Texas Water Science Center flood warning system information into their local capabilities to disseminate warnings. It's proposed that this goal be merged with the first goal in this category, and rather than calling out specific data sources, to state that they should use the best available data. So the first goal could be revised to say, develop a regionally coordinated warning and emergency response program, which shall at a minimum involve coordination with the county to detect the flood threat and provide timely warning of impending flood danger to the most populated areas of the region using the best available flood warning system information that is currently available. It's kind of a mouthful, but I think it covers everything that was trying to be achieved when it was previously discussed. Under the fourth goal category, 4 of 6, this is the guidance category of goals. The first is to increase the number of Lower Rio Grande Planning Region communities participating in the NFIP. This data is readily available, easy to track. Our current baseline is at 91%, and we're recommending short-term target of 95% and a long-term of 100%. The next goal under guidance is to increase the number of entities that adopt higher than NFIP minimum standards. Our current baseline, based on review of available data and the TFMA Higher Standards Survey, shows we're at about 17%, and we're recommending that the short and long-term targets remain consistent with those set during the previous planning cycle, and those are listed on the slide. The third goal under guidance states to increase participation in the CRS by encouraging Lower Rio Grande Planning Region floodplain management programs to incorporate dedicated drainage fees to implement future FMEs and FMPs, incorporate non-compliance penalties, and who regulate development in the future conditions floodplain. This statistic is also tracked and readily available. The current baseline is at 2%. Previous short and long-term targets were set prior to having that baseline condition, and it was determined that they were unrealistically high. So we looked up participation across the state and across the US and set those values as our targets. So the state participation rate in CRS is currently around 5%, and the national average is at 6.6%. And so we set our short and long-term goals based on those numbers. The last goal in this category is to increase the number of entities that have multi-year drainage CIP list. It was discussed that this was difficult to track and that many entities do not plan 20 years out because of election cycles and term limits and whatnot. And so the committee felt the goal was a little unrealistic, and as such, they recommended this one for removal as well. The fifth goal category is related to property acquisition, structure elevation, and floodproofing. The first goal is to reduce the number of structures that have been subject to repeated flooding events through property buyouts. Our research found that property buyouts have been used on occasion throughout the region, but are not an annual occurrence. As such, the previous goals seem to be pretty high when considering it annually. In the last several years, the value of buyouts has been estimated to be below $1 million. So the short and long-term goals that are proposed are significantly lower than that of the previous cycle. And so we were saying a short-term goal of over $1 million and a long-term goal of over $2 million. Next, the next goal is to increase the acreage of publicly protected. Yes, sir.
And on the long-term goals, do I see 3?
I'm sorry, 3 long-term goals?
Yeah, no, on long-term goals, on that first bullet.
We heard 2 million, right? We heard 2 million.
I heard 2 million, but is it more than 3 million?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes, 3. I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
My bad.
I just wanted to make sure, okay?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I just misspoke. My mistake. Okay, so the second one then was about increasing the acreage of publicly protected open space and critical flood risk areas that are reused for a beneficial public use. that's been, we measured that by assessing the total acreage of designated park space within the 100-year floodplain. And so the current estimate was 4,075 acres. And so again, we didn't have that baseline when the initial targets were set, so those targets seem pretty high. So the recommendation for this cycle was to set a short-term goal of over 10,000 acres and a long-term goal of over 20,000 acres. The last goal in this category was to increase the amount of publicly owned land in the region that can be utilized for future regional stormwater infrastructure. The data is available in some locations in terms of what parcels are municipally owned, but it's harder in portions of the Region 15 area to get the data. And then even if you can get the data, the intent of the use of that property is unknown. And a lot of times it's very small parcels that are just buildings and wouldn't be suitable for detention. So there was a lot of difficulties in getting the data and then analyzing it to understand what might be available for detention. And so because of that, this one was also recommended for removal from the flood plan. Okay, we're on the last category now, which is related to education and outreach. The first goal was to increase the number of outreach and education activities, specifically targeting municipal floodplain managers throughout Region 15, and that are hosted by Region 15 Regional Flood Planning Group and available on the website. The committee discussed that while a lot of entities do have education and outreach activities, right now, not very many are being posted on the Region 15 website, except for the stuff that we're doing as a regional flood planning group. And so that we needed to consider an implementation strategy for how to better address this goal. But based on public meetings that are posted on the website, the baseline's currently around 4 events per year on average. And the group has proposed a 40% increase by 2038 and an increase greater than 50% by 2058. I got a note that I may have skipped a slide. I'm going to finish this one and then I'll go back to slide 6 because I got a message that I skipped something by mistake. So the next goal on this slide is to increase the number of entities and public stakeholders participating in the regional flood planning process. The group has proposed a minor modification in how this goal is measured, and that we should count the number of entities that have either submitted FMXs, completed surveys, or that provided comments during regional flood planning group meetings or on draft documents. And so this would be instead of tracking a percent of entities, which was difficult to determine like what that entire group should look like. Is it only entities that regulate floodplain management activities, or what about other groups that are stakeholders in the community but don't regulate meetings or regulate standards? And so that's why we're looking to track a total number instead of a percent. The baseline estimate that we have is that there was 20 entities that are actively participating in the regional flood planning process. And by 2038, the goal that we're proposing is to have 30 entities and 34 by 2058. And so those numbers were set using the same percentage adjustments that were previously recommended, but just translating that as to a number based on the current baseline participation rate. The last goal states to increase the proficiency of floodplain managers by increasing the number of them certified as certified floodplain managers, or CFMs, with the Texas Floodplain Management Association. The data is tracked by TFMA. Our current baseline is at 12%, and this is based on 8 out of 66 community stakeholders. And the committee is recommending a 50% target by 2038 and greater than 70% by 2058. So that wraps all those up. Let me go back to slide 6. Did I skip flood studies and analysis? I did. My mistake. Sorry about that. This was the third section. And And so the first goal in this category was to decrease the average age of FEMA flood insurance rate maps used to define significant flood hazard areas in the region. And so we discussed that there's a lot of factors that the regional floodplain group can't control. Levy certification is a big topic and a big issue. And there's a lot of maps that are going to age out of that 20-year time frame pretty soon. So since a lot of these were kind of out of our control, it was discussed that maybe the focus should be more on localized regional studies that support the development of FMPs in the region. And so the group was recommending that this goal be removed from the regional flood plan as well. The second goal in this category was to increase the coverage of available flood hazard data in the region, including at ports of entry, airports, and seaports, by completing studies with identified construction projects to address flooding hazards in an area, in areas identified as having gaps in flood mapping data. The baseline that measures the percent of entities that have completed studies less than 10 years old was estimated at 18% based on the data that we had available and through doing some internet research to look at other entities where we were missing information. The short and long-term targets for this cycle were set at 50 and greater than 70% respectively. And so the last goal in this category, and the last one we need to review right now, was to develop and maintain an operational stormwater asset management plan. We didn't have much data on this, and there were some inconsistencies in terms of how that's defined. We really couldn't find any entity that has a really well-structured asset management plan right now. Mostly it was just kind of a list of assets. And so the committee was recommending that this goal be removed from the flood plan. So those were all of the things that were discussed from the committee based on those 4 meetings. We did summarize this in a document and send it out for review last week. And so we could either move on to with the next item and then address agenda item 8 after the presentation, or if you all want to discuss any of these recommendations now, we can do that. It's up to you.
And I think that it'd be best if we'd go to item number 8 and then get that done, and we'll have discussion at that point.
Chairman, I guess I just wanted to maybe clarify one thing real quick. If not anything specific, but conceptually, like, is the objective of this to come to consensus on what we believe the best practices are for the floodplain managers, or what are we trying to achieve by adopting this?
Well, they're just goals for the Region 15 area, things that we're trying to achieve to
Short and long-term goals. You know, I think in the very beginning, Pepe, we were very visionary in what we thought we wanted to include, and included things that are highly improbable that we can measure.
Yes.
So there's no need to include those items on our plan if we know from the get-go that, you know, it's something either that is too expensive to do or too lofty to accomplish.
Okay, it just seems that I guess who is this intended for? Is it for the cities, for the county, for the drainage districts? And
it's general guidance for Region 15 stakeholders. And so you know, it's really just meant to be kind of like a go by, something to sort of like, these are the things we should be trying to achieve as a region to meet flood planning goals and improve flood risk resiliency.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ann. We'll go ahead and go into item number 8, which is discussion and possible action to approve the flood mitigation and floodplain management goals as proposed by the working committee that we just went over with Ann now. So Ann, if you would proceed.
So you want to have a discussion on this and possibly take action before we proceed with the technical memorandum update, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess we'd be looking for any comments then on the recommendations, if there's any, questions, any things you want to modify from the recommendation. Otherwise, we'd be looking for approval of the committee's recommendation to modify the goals as presented for inclusion in the technical memorandum.
Was any of the recommendations made by the technical working committee that we had, are there any concerns with the removal of some or the addition of some? Is there anything that stands out that we have an issue with? Those are the questions that we have at this point, I know the committee worked and met a number of times, and it tried their best, to streamline, simplify, and somewhat make it easier for us to have a viable plan in place that we can all work with and within. So, Pepe, I know you had some questions.
Yeah,
Is there any?
I guess just what I'd like to see, not right now, but maybe as the organization matures is an action plan on how this is going to be implemented. It seems like these are first we need to establish the baseline, but I think that the next phase is how is this going to be adopted by the different regulatory organizations that are in charge of flood control. And I know that in the county, Chairman for Cameron County, Mr. Augusto is the floodplain administrator, and so is this for him? Is this for everybody? Just so we can clearly understand how we can meet these objectives.
This is for everybody, but the challenge that we have, as you well know, is that there's many different entities, including private individuals for that matter,
Yes, sir.
that utilize this particular management tool to do planning and hopefully be able to execute on some projects, Unfortunately, we have no regulatory authority as far as a group is concerned to make anyone do anything for that matter. This is just a matter of suggestions for them. We would hope that as we see more dollars being put into the opportunities that can be funded through this flood management plan, that more interest would develop and more folks would feel the need to participate. So I think
Agreed.
I think that the whole issue here is we want more involvement from more entities.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line. How do we benefit the most? And I know that the Water Development Board went out a while back to try to be more inclusive of maybe some underserved areas that possibly had been eliminated. And, that's what the Water Development Board did at their last meeting. They approved a contract where they're reaching out to some areas that perhaps didn't have the capacity to submit grant opportunities for their areas. And they're going to do some of that work for us, or for the group, I should say, not for us in particular, but it'll be done through a contract with the Water Development Board at the state level. And then we'll incorporate those projects into our regional flood planning plan in the different groups. But I know there's a bunch of people online, any other comments, any other thoughts,
I know that I looked at ours for Cameron County Drainage District 1, and I know there's several that I think we would like to work towards. I mean, not right now, unfortunately, but to me, it's just a good starting point to plan for future projects. So that's what we'd be using it for.
Yeah, and understanding that we're trying to not make lofty goals, but hopefully attainable goals for the entities. What if it's a drainage district, a city, or a county, or anyone else, So, thank you, Annabelle, for your comments. Any other comments? I know there's a lot of people that talk to me a lot all the time, but I guess they're not making too many, Mr. Allen, no, I thought you were unmuted. So
What I do think is the goals need to be obtainable, especially if we're wanting people to follow them. So I think the adjustments that were made probably align better to more realistic projects and goals.
Yeah.
Quick question along those lines. As far as the short-term and long-term goals, and when you look at the year, it may not give us a sense of urgency. Of course, it's been a very placated season as far as rains and flooding. I think that the attention span is kind of low right now for everybody, but as soon as something happens, we have an event, everybody's interested, right? So, not that I wish for that, but the goal timelines, they seem so far off that is there a necessity to have them so far off so that we don't see the possibility of some concrete results sooner?
So these targets are based off the guidelines provided by Texas Water Development Boards. They're kind of the ones that set that short and long-term time frame. I mean, I think as a regional flood planning group, if you wanted to set something shorter term, that's something we could also do. But to meet the sort of the requirements provided by Texas Water Development Board, that's why those were set as they are for 2038 and 2058.
Mm-hmm. It must be related to TxDOT.
Yeah, well, again, Renee, on this particular, yeah, they could be, but on this particular issue, you know, these are the formats that we are given to make sure that by identifying, doing these, everyone within the regional flood planning group is able to have a goal that hopefully is attainable, and at the same time be able to have the time necessary to plan, support, and fund some of these projects. Because it takes, I mean, there's some, I mean, I've been working on a project 25 years, and hopefully it'll get done this coming year, you know, totally. So it's a process, unfortunately, you know. But thank you for your comments, you know. Anyone else out there have any thoughts? If there isn't, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the management goals as proposed by the working committee.
I move that we approve it.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
second? Second, thank you. Any other comments, discussions, or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will go ahead and proceed then to, let's see, item number 9. Discussion and possible action. Well, Jaime, let me go back to Mr. Salazar.
Yes, sir, Chairman.
Jaime sent the revised minutes and corrected what we had gotten. I will go ahead and go back to item number 4 and open it up for discussion and action, okay? And I'll give a little time for folks if they haven't had an opportunity to look at them, but the correction was made and it is properly worded now. I just printed it out and reviewed it, and it is ready to go with the way it was meant to be, okay? So I will entertain a motion to approve the corrected minutes that Jaime just sent us. As soon as someone is ready and has read them.
So move.
So moved.
Moved in second. Again, any other questions, comments, or does anyone need any more time to review? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's taken care of. Thank you so much, Jaime, for addressing
Thank
that.
you. No worries, sir. Thank you all.
And thank you, Ms. Salinas, for bringing that to our attention. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action to approve submittal of the technical memorandum to Texas Water Development Board, allowing for minor modifications as needed. And
Yeah, so we had just a couple brief slides on this that Elmer was gonna to present on the draft technical memorandum that was prepared. It was posted to the Region 15 website the week before Thanksgiving for review and comments. I haven't received anything. I'm not sure if Jaime has, but I don't think so. So if you
well,
want,
let's ask him.
No,
Let's-
ma'am. No,
No,
no
okay.
comments received, no.
Thank you. I
Okay.
have not either. Thank
No
you.
worries.
Great. So I'll hand it over to Elmer. He's just has a few slides and going to give just a brief overview of what is included in the technical memorandum. And then we'd be looking for approval to submit it. We're doing some final internal, just kind of QC of the document, wording and stuff like that. So that's why it was written in the agenda, allowing for a couple minor modifications if needed. But I'll hand it over to Elmer so he can give the update.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna present on the technical memorandum, what it is and what's included on it. So I'll start with what's the technical memorandum, and it's just a midpoint report. It's a draft information, so anything within the report could change. So intention of this memorandum is to demonstrate progress towards the development of the regional flood plan. As Anne mentioned, it was the draft memo was posted on November 21st, and the official deadline for submittal is January 7th of next year. Go to the next one. So what's included on the tech memo? So it includes 4 tasks. It's going to be task 1 through 4. Starting with task 1, it's pretty much a description of the planning area, and also including an updated list of entities with flood-related authority and participation. The next task is task number 2, which is broken up in 2 sections. Task 2A, which is existing conditions. On that one, we based all the information on the flood quilt that was previously approved by the group in October. And the task 2B, it's focused on future conditions, which was approved on July of this year. So the analysis includes developing flood risk maps. This information is still draft, and it's developed for 3 major storm events: the 10, the 1, and the 0.2% or the 500-year storm event. And on this picture, I'm showing the map included for the draft memo, and it's for the existing conditions. It also, task 2 includes identification of gaps in inundation mapping, and also identify known flood prone areas. Go to the next one. So task 2 also focuses on flood exposure, and for flood exposure, it includes certain parameters, which are population, property, and critical infrastructure, and also evaluates vulnerability and critical infrastructure. And also here on the map, we're showing one of the maps included on the map on the draft for flood exposure on existing conditions. Moving on, we have task 3, which focuses on reviewing floodplain management practices, determine flood protection goals, and identify mitigation needs for the region. And then lastly, task 4, which is broken up into sections. The first one is to determine a screening process for FMXs or flood mitigation actions. And the second one is to list all the potential flood mitigation actions for this new cycle. For this one, we have a total 879 potential FMXs, but that's including FMXs from cycle 1. And then next steps. So as previously mentioned, the tech memorandum will be submitted by early January 2026, and the next major milestone would be to submit a list of FMEs in March 26 of 2026.
So I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to review the technical memorandum, but most of the items in there you've seen in previous meetings. As Elmer mentioned, the existing condition flood map and future flood map was presented and approved already. We've already talked about all the stakeholder entities from Chapter 1 that were included, and we talked about floodplain management practices the last meeting. We had the goal discussion earlier in this meeting. So all these things have been reviewed previously. It was really just kind of pulled all together along with associated maps and tables for the draft tech memo. So again, that tech memo is due January 7th, and we do need to have the submittal of the memo approved by the regional flood planning group prior to that January 7th deadline. So we're hoping to do that today. And that, I believe, is item 9.
That's what we're on right now. And
Oh, yeah, sorry. 7, yeah. So
any comments or discussion on these, basically these minor modifications that were made that have been part of our discussions probably now for the last 6 or 7 months? Pepe, I saw you go on and off. Any questions?
I guess, can you just give us the one-liner of the purpose of this report? I know you gave a lot of singular explanations, but long story short, I know it's a requirement, but for what end?
It's to show progress made towards the first 4 tasks and towards the ultimate delivery of the draft plan later in 27. So it's really just to show progress and that the region is working towards achieving the deliverables from the flood plan.
Got it. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the technical memorandum allowing the minor modifications as needed that were presented.
So move.
I'll second.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion on identifying research topics important to Region 15 and submitting topic ideas to the Texas Water Development Board. Ann or Christina, I don't know who's going to handle this one, or Elmer.
Sorry, yeah, I thought that this was an item that I thought was added because you had provided some comments during the previous meeting and they didn't make it on in time. I don't have anything specific to speak to this point.
Okay.
But I think it was just suggested as something that maybe needed to be discussed.
Yes, there's some things that have been brought to our attention from some folks, and this would just be an opportunity at this point to visit with, all of us in regards to any concerns, issues, or opportunities that might be out there that we would need to present to the Texas Water Development Board. I know that one of mine had been the discussion I had a little bit earlier on addressing some of the underserved areas and not going through the flood planning group, but going directly from the Water Development Board to trying to get that done. I thought we had all been doing a good job of trying to do as much outreach as possible to all of the entities and all of the areas within our regional flood planning group. But it was basically at the end of the day, an opportunity for our flood planning group and the other 14 for that matter, to be able to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible in reaching some of more underserved areas in the whole state. So, I was satisfied with that after going through that exercise. I don't know if there's any other topics that anyone feels are important. And if there are, there's always opportunity to send those to the Water Development Board or to the flood planning group so that we can include it in the next agenda. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that if there's something that you all think we need to look at, discuss, and consider, send Jaime Salazar or myself, whatever it is that you want to be considered, and we will make sure and get on the agenda for discussion by all of us. Jaime?
Yes, sir, of course. I mean, those were the items that were sent over that didn't make it on the last agenda. So of course, like Chairman says, anyone that has additional information, please feel free to email me and share your concerns so we can get them on as needed.
And I know that we have some new folks on board with us. Thank you so much for signing up for the meeting. But again, if there's things you don't understand or things you need more explanations on, please feel free to call, and we will make sure if we don't have an answer, put you in contact with the right person to help us give you that right answer.
Thank you.
I do have, I guess, something that maybe would be meaningful to look into, and it's just really has to do with the criteria that that the FIF program is using to rank projects, and really figuring out whether anybody other than Dallas is going to ever be able to qualify, since there's such a heavy weighted given to population density and property values. And so I think as long as those criterias are there, just mathematically, Houston and Dallas and some of these cities that have denser populations are going to be obtaining 100% of the funds for the FMP program, especially when they apply for like $90 million. And so if we could look into that and make it more equitable, but I know that the chairman from day one said that BCRs cannot be the only way that that determinations on how money is spent are done, because then that just means that the larger communities can prove up a larger BCR.
Yes, and we've had some of those discussions, Pepe, and it's very challenging for some of the smaller communities. It's a lot easier for these folks, as you said, to come up with any matches required. And some of the other areas that don't have that wealth find it a whole lot more difficult to be able to cost justify the work that they're doing. The other area I know that we brought to the attention was some areas that are not necessarily economically viable per se in the exact definition of economically viable. By that, I mean a very environmentally sensitive area that has great ecological benefit to a community doesn't have any value in their eyes. How can you protect that? How do you compare? How can you even consider doing projects around that? So it's challenging, but as we move through the process, hopefully we'll have opportunity to give more input, and hopefully that the projects that are approved don't eat up all the money. I mean, it would be nice if they have a segregated amount by category with maximum dollar costs.
Yes, or maybe some population cap, or like a big city, small city dichotomy. Because again, I guess beyond the matching, it's just that the selection criteria is based on the more the more impact the project has, the more points it gets, and by definition, a project that benefits a very large population that's in a very small space, like in the small cities, is going to rank better.
Yep. And, you know, and that was one of the concerns that came up with this new initiative that they did to reach some of these underserved areas. Well, heck, you know, they might do the PR work and reach those areas, but if the BSA doesn't work, what does it mean at the end of the day?
Mhm.
Or who's going to come up with the match for those projects? You know, I mean, it's just an exercise of futility just to make them feel good that they're reaching out to these folks, or do they really want to help some of these more impoverished rural areas that exist throughout the state of Texas? You know, and those are the questions that come up to us, you know. So, any other, and if anyone thinks of something, just send the comments to Jaime and myself, and, you know, we'd love to include it for discussion in our next meeting. Okay. That being the case, you know, let's see. We will go to item number 11, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jaime.
That's correct, Chairman.
Discussion on the Region 15 representation on the Texas Water Development Board Research Committee. And on this, who do we have that represents us on this committee? Would someone from the Water Development Board possibly have that answer for us?
I'm not quite sure.
You know, I don't think historically we've had an active presence.
Mhm.
And I would like to just throw this out to all of us that are on the call to see if there's any interest, desire, or want to be able to look further into this, and maybe have some folks in this group volunteer or voluntold to be more involved at a different level, so that we can at least be more at the table with the Water Development Board. I know they do a great job, but, you know, they can't make us do things or go to meetings or whatever. So, you know, if there's any interest in any of that, please let us know. Again, let Jaime and me know, and we'll see if there's any opportunities at that level, so that we can hopefully have a voice. Okay, that was my only reason for bringing that on there. So just let us know if there's any desire or interest on that, you know. Jaime, on item number 12 is public comments. Has anyone signed up today to request public comment?
Not at this time, Chairman.
Okay. Item number 13 is consider date and agenda items for the next meeting. I think we already talked about agenda items and on the date. And when is our next major drop dead date for any other document that must be approved and submitted to Water Development Board after the January 7th deadline that we have coming up, that we will already meet by the actions we took at this meeting?
So our next deliverable to Texas Water Development Board is the list of FMEs to be performed by Texas Water Development Board that is due March 26th. There are some things we'll need to review and discuss prior to that in terms of how we should be evaluating. The focus is supposed to be on rural areas, so I think we need to have a conversation about, you know, what that means to us. So I would propose that we would have a meeting sometime in late January to have that discussion. And then we would probably have another meeting sometime prior to that March 26th deadline to review, you know, what that discussion results in terms of what we propose recommending as those two FMEs for Texas Water Development Board to propose. So in short, I think a late January meeting
Late-
and then a second meeting sometime in, maybe late February, early March.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. We will not set a date today, but as soon as we'll wait till after the first, and send out a date that we can meet at. Again, we'll try to make it on a Wednesday afternoon and make it at 2:30, just like this one. It seems that it's been working well. So, there being no further discussions or actions.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed you changed the camera settings so you don't have to see your bodyguard who's next to you?
Well,
Commissioner.
let me tell you.
Mira, there you go.
Hey, the problem with my camera was that we couldn't figure out how to keep it from zooming from one corner of the room to the
Yeah.
other. And it kept going all over the place. And the last time I had a meeting with that camera, everybody was extremely dizzy by the end of the meeting,
Well, it's good to know
so-
everybody's still there backing you up. That's good.
Oh, yes, no, definitely. Augusto's on too. Everybody's here except that they changed it up on me, okay?
Sounds
and
good. Keep up the good work,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yes, sir. Then we're gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thanks to everyone for being with us. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and please be safe out there as we go through these dangerous holidays, Don't eat too many tamales.
Thank you, everybody.
Move
Take
this
care.
way.
That's
Take
tough.
care. God bless everybody.
You have to move that we adjourn or we're good.
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Mark. Thank you.
Adjourn. Thank you so much.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have
Happy
fun.
holidays.
Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.